We talk about a lot of the old school names of thrash metal on this channel, and at times we do speak about a couple of the bands that are trying to influence the modern age. The second wave, or the second coming, I guess, of old school thrash metal is at a point right now where it's been around for a while that it's no longer a new concept, and now it's almost the responsibility of newer bands to try to reinvigorate this genre for a brand new age, while the old style and old school bands continue to motivate and perhaps act as a gateway drug for listeners. Lost Society is such a band that could easily try to perpetuate this. This Finnish band is composed of members that are extremely young, and we're talking like the average age of membership right now is probably early 20s, so their careers have literally just started, but yet this is already their third album with the album Braindead. Now this is an 8-track affair. Now you can also include a couple of others, such as the Pantera cover of PST-88, which is kind of okay. I mean, it's kind of just okay. And then, of course, we have a different version of the song Terror Hungry from one of their earlier albums, entitled the Californian Easy Listening version, which is an interesting concept, but in reality, what does it really achieve or prove? So, what do we have to talk about with this band? We have a lot to actually talk about. This is a band that really moved a lot of mountains and inspired a lot of people to kind of get on board because they were able to showcase a grand diversity of fast, aggressive riffing with some really interesting, shrieky vocals, yell vocals that very much caused some folks to think of bands perhaps such as Municipal Waste within this own subtext of thrash metal. But with this album, with Braindead, they opt to go a bit of a different direction with things. They opt to actually aim for some songs that have a little bit more length to them, which of course means that they have to fill up a little bit more time. So really the very first thing that would come to your mind would be that the riffs would be everywhere. This would be a riff fest where the guitar work would just be dancing all over the fretboard constantly. And this is something that happens, unfortunately, not nearly enough on this disc, as they aim actually to try to incorporate a little bit of atmosphere. They try to incorporate a little bit of songwriting prowess, but I just don't think it's quite there. I Am the Antidote, the very first track on this album, is actually pretty well tailored. It's one that I would actually describe as a little bit more of a modern thrash idea. And what I mean by that is that if the vocals were a little bit cleaner, you could easily imagine these guys potentially with their riffs and their great production on this disc, perhaps being played on the radio alongside some of the other bands of this age. And that's not necessarily a slight to these young guys. It's in fact quite the compliment that they're able to really enforce an idea of energy and really showcase themselves as an extremely kinetic sounding band as far as that energy style is concerned. But then you get into songs such as Riot, Mad Torture, and Hollow Eyes to follow it up, which is able to do well enough, and that's where a little bit more of the aggressiveness really comes in. The guitar solos on this disc are probably one of the highlights. They have a very talented core of axe slingers that showcase their talents every so often, and whenever this happens, it's something that's very well done. What actually happens, though, what seems to be the problem is that as they're trying to get from one part of a song, a lengthy composition, to the next, they kind of fill it with some basic riffing, which almost feels comparable to a little bit of dead air. It's not something that's being managed quite as well as it potentially could be. Now, the vocals on here will definitely remind you of a Municipal Waste or a band that really wants to incorporate their sound with the energy through their shouting and basically through having a lot of sound kind of being directed right at a listener. It's one where it's supposed to be a bit of an oral assault. It's something that works every so often, and actually works better on a song such as Hangover Activator, which is one of the shortest tracks, in fact, the shortest track on the album. Songs such as Rage Me Up, however, feels really hokey, not to mention it really destroys a lot of the flow and a lot of the momentum that perhaps this album was getting for it after songs such as Mad Torture or Hollow Eyes. And then we get into Only My Death Is Certain, which is a more than 8-minute long song, which of course immediately piqued my interest because I wondered how this group was going to be able to manage itself for 8 minutes, and this was one where I was sadly a bit disappointed. This is an underwhelming track where sort of the crawl pace that is incorporated here never really juxtaposes itself into some sort of triumphant finale. It's instead one where it feels like they're maybe trying to aim for something that is similar to a part of the Overkill quintology of songs, that actually might be more than a quintology at this point, but it's not one that is managed quite as well. And what those tracks had that this one doesn't is a lot of eerie feeling. It's one where the mood and the overall setup was handled to craft an atmosphere and craft an experience that actually led to all the subsequent sequels. Whereas this track feels very much just sort of lackluster. It doesn't move nearly enough. All of that kinetic energy that you feel from some of the other songs that Braindead boasts just sort of goes up in smoke, and it actually causes this finale to sort of fall flat on its face. Overall, this album is not that bad. Some people are going to complain about this because this was a very speed-oriented band that was able to deliver a lot of kinetic energy and may feel that this is one where the riffs became a little bit too refined, either that or there weren't nearly enough of the speedy, extremely thrashy concepts or ideas on this disc to really carry over after the hype that was presented surrounding their first 2 albums. I personally will take a little bit of a different view on that. I think these guys have a lot of great ideas that they present. It's just not being presented at the best format or in the best way. They still have a long way to go in their songwriting process, and I still think these guys have the talent to certainly be a really good band. It's just that this is a group that's still searching for perhaps that last piece of the puzzle that is Lost Society's identity. I would give this album a 79 out of 100. It's got some great moments to it, but there's still some work to be done. I want to know what you guys think about Braindead by Lost Society. Might not be a name that you recognize, but might be a band that you certainly want to check out. Let me know. Let it me know in the comments below it. Knaves. coverkillernation. And if you're watching this right as this album review is coming out, there's a stream going on right now. And if you're not watching this right as this album review has come out, there was a stream that happened and you missed it. Shame on you. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of the streams in the future. Bye.